All right, not the first time, folks. Not exactly sure how long I kept talking after they did that to me. So I will see who's coming back in. Yep, Sonia, I don't know if you're hearing me, but oh, there we go. I couldn't remember your name, Umberton. That's a new one to me there. Stacy, yeah, they just cut me off, Stacy. So I'm coming back on. The first half of this went long time, over an hour, but I'm not done yet. Talking about Oklahoma City bombing. So you want to go back and check out the first half. I do not lose signal where I'm at, ever. I could be up here all day long. They cut it off because they do not like what I'm talking about. Just happened last time. It's just the way it is. You talk about this kind of stuff, and they censor you. You know, the last time I was talking about this kind of stuff is the only other time they ever cut me off. You know, so. And like I said in the beginning of the first video, they cut me off when I was talking about 135 and August 11 on May, which is the 5th month, on the 13th day, and that strike ends on 8/11. So I was talking about 135 and 8/11, and their strike went from May 13 to 8/11. So they're really saying that was YouTube, not Facebook. So not a big surprise. They do this kind of stuff. Well, I don't know if anybody else is coming back, and I'm not exactly sure how long I talked before I turned my head and noticed that it had cut off. So I apologize if I did not get something back to you, or didn't get something to you that should have. Right now we are comparing Timothy McVeigh's death day to 9/11, and the number of days from the day that Timothy McVeigh died to 9/11 was 93 days. And the name of the flight that ran into the first World Trade Center was what? Flight 93. Not by coincidence, not at all. Okay, let's see, what was that one? Oh, yeah. Now, Timothy McVeigh's birthday was 4/23/68. So comparing that to 9/11 was 33 years. Now, we've already had this once tonight where I got cut off. 33 is again the number of ritual completion, 33 degrees of masonry. So he was very well paired with the event that he was predicting. I don't know whether or not he actually did it, whether he was conned into it by, government forces that knew what the whole thing was really about, and maybe they helped him find the explosives that he needed and that sort of thing. But definitely it was well organized and well planned out by somebody that very, very well understands this information. And who was president at the time? Bill Clinton. So we're going to talk about Bill Clinton's birthday, compare that to the date of the bombing. This kind of blows my mind, just to be real honest with you. The Slick Willie Bill Clinton was born on 8/19/46. And from 8/19/46 to 4/19 95 was 48 years. Nothing particularly interesting about that part. 8 months and 1 day. Again, that is very interesting. Again, with the 8/1, you add the little invisible zero, and what are we talking about? August 10. But another way of saying this is that it was 17,700 376 days. Now, does that number look familiar to anybody? Of course, we had 666 earlier. 777 represents the higher consciousness. Like, also 77 was, Flight 77 hit the 77-foot tall World Trade Center 77 minutes after takeoff. But if you just take out one of them, now what is it? 1776. It's not unusual in numerology to erase duplicating numbers. So when was Waco, by the way? Waco was 2/28/1993. Multiply all the numbers out. What are they? 7,776. Like I say, they say you can't make this up, but apparently you most certainly can. Because they did. Oh, gracious. Now they said, where did that other note go? Oh, yeah. Okay, here it is. Just reading it wrong. So, of course, you see 1776, and this was a big, supposedly the guy was, Timothy McVeigh was supposed to be this patriotic guy or whatever, you know. So no big surprise they would have that in there. But what is 1776, by the way? Earlier we had in our decode, the first video before I got cut off, we had a 222, right? I did a whole video on this. George Washington was born on February 22nd, and 44 years later, 22 times 2 is 44, was 1776. And how George Washington is coded to be like Jesus, okay, because 44 times 2 is 88, and Jesus in Greek is 88, or 888, same difference. But if you keep multiplying this times 2, you get 444 times 2, you get Jesus, 888, and it's talked about as a point in time in Galatians 4:4. But do it one more time, and what do you get? 1776. So it's not surprising that all this is so put together so amazingly well. They're not playing around when they plan these ritual attacks. They are not playing around. They are getting that information out. Now they said that 168 people were killed. And they said there was 680 injured, 324 buildings damaged, 258 buildings with shattered glass, 86 cars, which that's an interesting number right there because that in Hebrew is the number for Elohim, $652 million. Add all this up together, and it equals 2,168. If you were still here with me in the last segment, we talked about how 2,160, only a slight variation, is 1 cube in Kabbalah, or the diameter of the moon. 2,160 degrees in a cube, 2,160 miles diameter for the moon. Just add them all up. Not a coincidence, not at all. And this, with our 222 we were talking about, is another one of the most amazing things, I think. Because, let me erase this. And this, I think, says so much about how likely an event is probably destined to happen this August 10 or 11. Because from 9/11/01 to August 10/19, (8/10), by the way, is the 222nd day of the year. And Wiki says that the San Francisco, the designated landmark number they made a point of saying is number 222. So it's designated landmark 222. It's on the 222nd day of the year. And from 9/11 to 8/11 is 17 years, 11 days. Okay, that's this. Okay, 7-Eleven. You ever heard of a store called 7-Eleven? Hey, Tracy. Yeah, they cut me loose on the first segment, Tracy. So you have to go back and see the first one. I think it's censorship because I don't lose signal up here. Signal was strong as could be. They just cut it off. It happens. I mean, yeah, when you're being censored, it happens. You ever heard of a store called 7-Eleven? These are important Jewish numbers. Because they represent the Fibonacci sequence and how the first 24 numbers repeat in a never-ending cycle of 117. It's also 7-Eleven is 9/11 backwards. Not backwards, I'm sorry. I'm starting to get tongue-tied. 7-Eleven is originally 9/11 because September 11 was Sept 7, the 7th month in the original calendar, the Julian calendar. Now we do the Gregorian calendar, they move September to the 9th month. But originally, Sept 7 was the 7th month. So 7/11 and 9/11 are synonymous. But here's what's also interesting about that, is that the homicide code for police is code 187, which has two factors, 17 and 11. 17 times 11 is 187. And that is the code that they call in, the police call in for homicide. So this definitely says that something is going on. And where did the rest of my notes go? There they are. Okay. And from September 11, which there's 254 days left in the year, DLY, days left in the year, there are 254 tropical lunar months in the metonic cycle of the moon. Now, you'll have to look that up. I'll spell it for you. I'm not going to sit here and try to explain the metonic cycle. I did read about it yesterday, and I only barely completely understand it myself, okay? But the metonic cycle of the moon. Now we're going to start getting into our eclipses. As if we haven't said enough already. And look at this date, 17/11 from 9/11 to 8/10. Well, we have another one. From the next lunar eclipse following the Oklahoma City bombing. The next lunar eclipse would have been, or was, on 4/4/96. Okay, that's the one after. So the Oklahoma City bombing was on 4/19/95. And the amount of time that went between them was 11 months, 17 days. The reflection. Again, with the mirroring, like we said in the first one. Yeah, I heard somebody say something about that, Sonia. Hey, Greg, glad to have you back. I gave you notice. They cut me off, guys. I can't help it. They censor me. They don't like the stuff going out. I did not lose signal. Okay. I don't think these videos have time limits, as far as I know. So, I mean, I can sit up here all day long, and I do. And I've never lost signal except when I was doing these videos. So I don't know. I think it's censorship, but I could be wrong. I don't know. So from the lunar eclipse, the full lunar eclipse, not a partial, it only counts full lunar eclipses. Hi, Megan. Okay, to the Oklahoma City bombing was 11 months and 17 days. Just like from September 11 to this coming August 10, 17 years, 11 days. Okay, so again with the 7-11 and how it represents the homicide code 187, which has two factors of 17 and 11, and how it's an important number that represents the Fibonacci sequence because it goes 117 forever. The first time around it goes to 108, and then after that it goes to 117 ad infinitum, forever. So 108, like 10-8, August 8. So we got 11 and 7. I mean, like August 10. I'm sorry. You know. So this is wrapped up in so many ways. These numbers. That's why when somebody says, "Well, I don't get it," well, I understand. It took me a few months of tons of notes to get all of it. Okay, so you have to start with the simple stuff. Look how many notes I took before I even started decoding. Okay, that was before I even began my first decode. Then I wrote down tons of numbers. And now I have tons and tons of topics. Okay? So I have definitely put in my research and my time. Lots of time. But you're not going to get it all. So if you're like, well, this is kind of confusing, that's okay. So do what I do when you watch my videos or anybody else's videos. Go back and rewind. Stop, pause, write down, stop, pause, write down, you know. Forward, stop, forward, stop. That's what you have to do. And your notes will compile and your understanding will grow. I promise you. I didn't know any of this last November. Just ran into it in November, this previous year. Okay, now, and so far, almost everything I've showed you today is my own research. Just about all of it. Okay, let's see. There's also a 222 that I meant to say. And I meant to say it, but I lost my notes, so oh well. Now let's just go, okay, now we compared it to the lunar eclipse after the Oklahoma City bombing. Let's do the one before. They're always coded with lunar and solar, but we're going to do the prior lunar eclipse now. So where do you find this information for eclipses? I use moonblink.com. Free website. Just go to the date and it'll tell you if there was an eclipse. So it'll tell you the ones before, after, the ones for the whole year, all the way back from thousands of years ago to the future. Moonblink.com. Now, 11/29/93 was the lunar eclipse before the Oklahoma City bombing, which happened again for 1995. That is a duration of 72 weeks and 3 days. This is a nearly all-important number, 72. Forget the 3, it's not important, okay? 72 weeks is very important because it represents 1 degree of the precession of the equinox. Look it up, okay? It has to do with the plane of the galaxy. It is also very important because there was Moses and Aaron who chose 70, so 70 plus 1 is 72, leaders over Israel. And that's why Jesus and the Father, you might say, or you might represent the 12 disciples as a group, chose 70 evangelists after Mount Hermon after the Transfiguration to go and evangelize. Supposedly there are 72 names of God, and a girl in Zoroastrianism becomes a woman by showing that she, by wearing a belt that has 72 threads. So 72 is a very important number to them. 1 degree of the precessional equinox, so they're comparing the prior lunar eclipse to a degree of the precession, metaphorically, to the Oklahoma City bombing. Okay, let's do solar. The solar eclipse before was 11/3/94. Now go to the Oklahoma City bombing, which was 4/19/95 again. And we have a span of 168 days. What did we say about that number? Anybody remember? What did Wikipedia say? There was 168 people dead. The bomb killed 168 people. And you think that is a coincidence? No, all of these killings are done mostly by lunar eclipses, but sometimes, like in this case, by a solar eclipse. And Terry Nichols, if you break it down, also sums to 168. That's Terry Nichols was his accomplice. Now, I did that earlier, okay? Terry Nichols was, if you multiply it out in septenary, go back and see the first clip there. It sums to 3,780,000, and 3 times 7 times 8 is 168. So you got all this like a coincidence? And when we added up all those numbers together, there was 168 killed, 680 injured, 324 buildings destroyed, 258 buildings with shattered glass. This is all on Wikipedia. 86 cars, 652 million. You add it all up, and what was it? Almost a cube, but it was a little off. You remember why? Because it was 2,168. And you thought it was just, I was off or wrong. No. There is a reason for all these things that they do. So let's take the next solar eclipse, the one after Oklahoma City. And the next solar eclipse after the Oklahoma City bombing was on 10/24/95. And this time I was in Clearwater, Florida, on the Clearwater Christian College for 2 years before I went to Hyles-Anderson, which I should not have done. But if I hadn't, I wouldn't have my family sick. God knows what he's doing, right? 4/19/95. Okay. So here's the solar eclipse to the Oklahoma City bombing dates. Several things stand out. 6 months, 6 years, there's 66. And you could call it 27 weeks. Oh, what's wrong with me? 27 weeks. Now, if you haven't opened up your Gematria-Nator.com calculator, Randy, you are coming in pretty late, my friends, but I'm glad you're here. But be sure and go back, Nick, my cousin, be sure to go back and check out the first video before they cut me off. All I did was restart it, but they don't like this stuff getting out, so they occasionally censor it. That's the way it is. 27 is extremely important because the word Jesus in septenary cipher sums to 27. And the word ritual sums to these two numbers. Open up your Gematria-Nator.com. Make sure you open up your septenary cipher to see the 27. But in your 4 base ciphers, you're going to see two numbers and a couple other ones, but we're going to focus on these ones. 27, and 81. Add the 0 again. How many times have we added the 0 to an 81 today? August 10. So clearly they are saying that this was a 8, 10, 8, 11 ritual. Whether or not they destroy the Golden Gate Bridge remains to be seen. I do not have magic. I'm simply following the breadcrumbs that they're leaving and saying this is what it looks like they're going to do. I do not have a crystal ball. We do not practice black magic. We are simply looking at what they do and trying to figure it out. We could be wrong. There's no guarantee. Okay, we may find out later that they summed it with 118 days after 8/11. You know, who knows? However, I strongly believe that something will happen, whether it's the Golden Gate Bridge or not, on August 10 or 11. I will be very surprised because the number of rituals that they have shown us so far is unbelievable. The word bombing punch that into your gematrinator.com calculator, equals 127. Again, World Trade Centers 1, 2, and 7. Pearl Harbor was on 12/7. And a lunar month is 27 days. So we have a solar cycle here, a solar eclipse to the Oklahoma City bombing, and it's 27 days like a lunar month, which is 27. Now multiply all this out for the date. And you go 1 times 2 times 4 times 9 times 5. And that equals 360. Like a circle. 360 degrees on a circle. In other words, you're going to see this again. Okay? It's going to come full circle. You're going to see it again. The Alfred P. Murrah building, Alfred P. Murrah himself, the man that the building was named after. It was the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building that was destroyed. Alfred P. Murrah was born on 10/27. Remember, in Gematria, zeros don't mean anything. Take away the 0. What's that look like? 127. And if you type in the words Scottish Rite, spelled R-I-T-E, okay, you know, like ritual, Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, that also equals 127. Stephen Gray, no kidding, bud. I ain't talked to you in a long time. How you doing, man? But yeah, you're coming in where I'm just about to close, bud, but go back and see my first video. They did cut me off, but only have a little bit more to go. And Oklahoma City was incorporated again that day we were looking at earlier on 7/15/1890. And if you compare that to 9/11/01, it was 111 years, 1 month, 27 days. Now, if you're going to say that all this stuff that I told you today is just coincidence, I am going to recommend a good shrink for you. I mean, come on. How many of these things could possibly be coincidence? 1 or 2, maybe. But I gave you 2 lunar eclipses, 2 solar eclipses, some other numbers related to the moon. We did vast amounts of gematria and 5 different ciphers. And it's just not impossible. We looked at birthdays, we looked at the buildings, when they were founded, all information you can find on Wikipedia. I didn't search for this information. I typed in Oklahoma City bombing and Timothy McVeigh, Wikipedia. That's where I got all this, okay? And then just use the ciphers that I wrote out and that are on gematrinator.com and figured it out what they all mean. And I was going to get into the governor, but you know, it's like you never quit researching this stuff. Like you can go on and just keep discovering more stuff because these things are so coded to the hills. It is my opinion that they probably use artificial intelligence. But yes, it was 51 years and 69 days, 6-9, like Saturn is 69, from the governor's birthday to the bombing, and all these big attacks. Carl, hey, how you doing, man? Good pal. But you literally got in right at the last couple minutes. Go back and watch the first one before they cut me off. I have a lot on here, man. So much. But there's no doubt that these people are using something, whether it's artificial intelligence, I don't know. Maybe it's just good calculators and people that are steeped in this knowledge, Kabbalists to be sure. As we showed you, so much of it relates to the cube. We say 1 cube is the same as the diameter of the sun. 4 cubes is the diameter of the moon. And again, with August 10, August 10, which if you write it like most rest of the world does, 10-8, 108, there's 108 moons from the Earth to the moon, 108 suns from the Earth to the sun. The sun is supposedly 108 Earth widths across, a big astronomical number. So that's one of the million reasons we think that something's going to happen this August 10, some big event probably. Could be just somewhere else in the world, or we could be totally right about this possibility of it being the Golden Gate Bridge that they might attack. In fact, if there's any way I can possibly do it, I am going to go down there and try to hand out flyers or something and tell people to stay off. I'd stay off all bridges that day, August 10 and 11, even around here. Because what if we find out later that that was code for some other bridge? I mean, I highly doubt it's around here, but I already did a video about how Silver Bridge in Point Pleasant was an obvious ritual pointing to the up-and-coming August 10 and 11 bridge collapse, if indeed it is what happens. And that's not so far away. So for some references, I'm going to write some things down for you guys to check for yourselves. To find the lunar eclipses, that was moonlink.com. The person that I originally learned Gematria from, starting in last November, that's Gematria Effect News. I don't make any money for this, but I do subscribe to his Patreon. His Patreon tells you how sports are rigged by the same code. All the stuff I've shown you today, every single game is fake and phony, just like the WWE. And I'm talking about professional level. Occasionally, maybe a final college game or something like that. I did one on the Rose Bowl that was obviously rigged. Okay, I'll give you an example because some of you, that's going to blow your mind. Okay. I'd never watched a football game before, okay? Never in my life. But I was learning this code, and I went to watch the Rose Bowl, okay? Somebody asked me to watch it with them. And if you punch in your Gematrinator.com calculator, Ohio and Buckeye, they sum to 117. More of those 117s like we were talking about earlier. Okay, one's in the Jewish cipher, by the way. So Buckeye and Ohio is 117. And within like the first 5-10 minutes of this game, I already knew who was going to win, and I already knew a guy that I didn't even know his name was going to be in the NFL. I had no idea what his name was, but they gave the riddle away right at the beginning. Sometimes they do that because number 7 kept passing the number 1, and then they kept showing number 7 as an 11-year-old kid. It's like, hey, there's the mystery, 7-11. I said, that guy's going to be in the NFL, isn't he? And they said, yeah, they already announced it. I said, well, yeah. I had no idea. I couldn't even name one player on the team, either team. I don't even think I'd ever even heard of the other team, I had nothing to do with sports. But that's how obvious the codes are. That's the only football game to date that I've ever watched. Well, 10 minutes of it anyway. And I already knew that Ohio was going to win that game because it was all about the 7 and the 11. Almost predicted the score right, too. And you can do that. And once you learn this code, you can learn how that sports are all rigged. Go to Gematria Effect News on YouTube. Learn this from him. He also has Gematria Effect Sports, or you can subscribe to his Patreon page for I think $5 a month. Maybe it's even $3. I did $5, whatever. But Also bought his book. Okay, it's like 800 pages of these riddles. Okay, you can learn all about 9/11. You can learn all about dozens and dozens of ritual murders, like how I showed you. I have the Jalea Davis series on my YouTube channel, which, by the way, is Bo. Now I'm doing this on Facebook right now. Space, letter N, space, capital A. When you search it, it'll say, "Did you mean to search with an E?" Okay. Then you click that, and it'll show up. That's my YouTube. And anyway, I did have a whole series on the Jalea Davis murder, so that was an obvious Masonic ritual sacrifice done in code with the sun, like we were talking about 11/9. Okay, she was a black woman who was killed on 11/9, and just a mile down the road is the Ben Bay Grotto. And Ben Bay, who lived with George Washington at the same time as George Washington, another black guy, was born on 11/9. How they folded the clothes, like the folded clothes in the tomb of Jesus, and how that sums, folded clothes sums to 322, like skull and bones insignia. It was an obvious point, a Masonic ritual. I called in the Ames fire, that big, huge fire. I called in the Ames fire. How Ames and fire had the exact same gematria, and I called it into the state fire marshal. And he said they have people to investigate codes like this. I don't know what he said. So if we had enough people doing this, enough people that get this code and take the time to learn it, I'll be happy to teach you anything I can. We could probably get enough people aware that maybe if we know ahead of time something's going to happen, like we did on 3/15 when the New Zealand shooting happened, and like we did on the Las Vegas shooting, which was before I was into this. Okay, so I didn't know that then. But, like Zachary Hubbard predicted from Gematria Effect News about the Las Vegas shooting, which, by the way, I should put that up on Facebook. There's mathematics of the Las Vegas shooting. Where if you want to go high level, like some of the stuff I was getting into today, and you want to help us decode and back engineer this code, because it's not like we have Kabbalah teachers to teach it to us. We have to go figure it out for ourselves. So we're back engineering a lot of this knowledge on that channel there on Facebook. We definitely invite you if you're interested. We do put up riddles all the time. Make it worth your time to be there. And there's also on Facebook Daily Dose of Gematria, or Gematria, how are you going to say it? Daily Dose of Gematria. And here we post Zach Hubbard's videos, as many of them as we have time to put on there. We post our own decodes and riddles sometimes as well. I'm an admin on that page. And you can order business cards to pass out, which I have, that, just to get people kind of like a gospel tract in a sense, just to give somebody an introduction to the knowledge. Talks a little bit about rig sports and things that get people's attention more than other things, So, and I also made myself a flyer. So, picture Jalea Davis on there and local stuff, Ritual Killings, the Southern Ohio Medical Center. Medical Center, Correctional Facility, Southern Ohio Correctional Facility, and how that went with Waco, and how even the lottery guy was chosen not by the numbers he chose, but by how the lottery system uses Kabbalah to choose him. So, everything, our entire reality is governed by this code. Some of it's organic. I may have mentioned things today that are coincidence, indeed. But a whole lot of it was intentionally put together because this is how the Cabal, notice the word Cabal sounds like Kabbalists, the cube worshippers run the world. And they have done so for a very long time. I even went to one of the first videos I did. You can go back and look at it. One of the first videos I did was where I went to the museum in Marietta, and I saw the first survey that was done, first survey done in Washington County. And the numbers, remember, it's Washington County, like George Washington, and he had been here at one point. Well, and even his Masonic apron is on display in the museum, or at least the one that he gave to somebody. Clearly a Freemason. Well, that survey, all the numbers and the words in the survey were just a gematriation of the name George Washington. It had the same numbers as the name of George Washington. It was so obvious, so transparent, the survey was fake. So they've been doing this in America since at least, when did that come out? I don't know, early 1800, first few years of 1800, I think. So they've been faking knowledge. This is why all of our news is fake on CNN and Fox News and ABC. They're all of it's fake. Everything, because it's all done by this code. Just yesterday, I looked at the date numerology. Go back and see my video from yesterday. And the first thing I did is I said, oh, Saturn and woman numbers on the date numerology. Guess what today's news is going to be about? Women and Saturn. Saturn worship. Murder, ritual death, and women. I go to Fox News right after I said, not before, right after I looked at the date numerology. And guess what? The top story was about abortion. Ritual, murder, and sacrifice, and women, and blah, blah, blah. Go back and see it. They're so transparent. We can do this every day, and we do it every day. There's no reason not to believe it. It's time for us all to wake up and start bringing down this system and calling baloney to these people and saying, we know what you're doing. We know this stuff is fake. And that does not mean that nobody died. There most certainly were a lot of people that died on 9/11. I know some people don't think so, but we know one right here in our town that died. It was up on the billboard, so there were definitely people that die in these rituals. However, some of them are entirely fake. You know, if I name them out loud, they'll cut my channel, okay? They'll censor them. But you might know which ones they are. Okay? I'll give the initials 1. Okay? That one was fake. Okay? Another one that occurred in a city in Massachusetts. You know? Fake as fake can be. Okay? But sometimes they're very real, like 9/11. A lot of people died. Okay? Julia Davis is definitely dead. No doubt about that. Okay? So, anyway, appreciate all of you watching. I think I've said about everything I can say. Got to go to work in 20 minutes, so I'm going to go make my coffee now. So, hope you all enjoyed. If you watch on YouTube, and I hope that all of you will go to my Bow and Arrow YouTube channel, and like, share, and subscribe, and share it with others. That would be very great. And I'm almost to 500 subscribers. Not bad. But I only had 10 when I started this in February. So it's definitely growing pretty fast. So. Oh, and I forgot one more person you should look at, because I learned about the septenary cipher from this guy. Marty Leeds. So you can find his YouTube channel, Marty Leeds is the name of his channel. And he's the one that originally introduced me through his videos, just watching his videos, to the septenary cipher. And that's what I use to uncode a whole lot of this stuff like I did today. All right. Well, thanks for watching, and I'm out.